All right, I went 4-1 in my 5 personal sports bets on BrockPage.com yesterday. $1,000 bettors made over $2,600 just on Sunday alone using those bets. We're also 7-1 in our last 8 $1.99 daily best plays on that very same webpage. And if you want to access today's $1.99 daily best play, the link for that bet is in the description section below. Now, if you want to see my personal bet record, you can actually do that right now for free by going to BrockPage.com. My record's located right there on the homepage. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on my YouTube channel and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side, and total. And what I do on BrockPage.com is I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. Now, we currently have over 950 members who are signed up and active on that website right now. And just remember, guys, if you sign up for a package here today on BrockPage.com, you're actually going to get access to that membership every single day, all the way through the end of March. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some NBA action. We're going to start with the Blazers taking on the Pistons, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Monday, March 21st, 2022. Detroit's -7 with the total at 223. But regardless of how bad Portland's been this year, I really don't think the Pistons should be in any type of spot to lay 7 points in any game this year. They're currently dead last in the NBA in shooting from the field at home. And in addition to that, they're also averaging just 104 points a game at the Little Caesars Arena. Now, they're taking on a Portland team who covered the point spread in 3 out of their last 5 ball games themselves. And that includes covers against the likes of Brooklyn, Atlanta, and Washington during that span. Now, Josh Hart, he's averaging over 14.5 points per contest, along with 7 boards and 4 assists. Meanwhile, Brandon Williams is averaging over 14 points a game himself, along with 3 boards and a couple assists as well. And speaking of offensive production, the Blazers actually like to do most of their scoring in the second quarter. Matter of fact, these guys are in the top 10 in the NBA in second quarter scoring on the road. Now, injury-wise, Bledsoe and Winslow are questionable for the Blazers. Meanwhile, for Detroit on the other side of things, Grant, Diallo, and Smith, they're all listed as out. Joseph, Olynyk, and Hayes are questionable. Now, total-wise, Detroit went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 ball games, 60% to the under in their last 10 against Portland. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the Blazers saw unders recently with the likes of Indiana, Utah, and Minnesota. Now, Portland also held the Pistons to just 105 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings against each other. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Portland +7, keeping this one close, and the under 223. Next contest, it is going to be Pelicans versus the Hornets, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Charlotte's -6, totals 234.5. Now, the Hornets got the W in their last 4 straight, and they also went 6-2 against the spread in their last 8. Now, the Hornets are amongst the better scoring teams in the entire association. Matter of fact, these guys are currently in the top 3 in offensive points per game. Miles Bridges is scoring 20 points per contest, along with 7 boards and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Terry Rozier is scoring over 19.5 points a night himself, along with 4 rebounds and 4 assists as well. When it comes to shooting the 3 ball, well, there's really not many in the East who do it better than Charlotte. These guys are actually in the top 10 in the entire NBA in offensive 3-point percentage. Now, they're taking on a Pelicans team who's certainly not built for a track meet. These guys have struggled offensively at many different spots this year. These guys are averaging only 106 points a game on the road this season, and they're actually in the bottom 10 in shooting from the field. Now, when it comes to playing on the road, these guys have gotten the W in only 40% of their contests while traveling. When it comes to the injury report in this one, Ingram's out, Graham is questionable. Meanwhile, for Charlotte on the other side, They are mostly healthy for the exception of Gordon Hayward. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Charlotte's last 4 ball games got over the line. They also went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, New Orleans saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Charlotte -6 and the over 234.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Lakers versus the Cavaliers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Cleveland's -6 with the total at 224. Now the Cavs got the W in 3 out of their last 4, and they've done a pretty nice job covering the number. They're 6-3 against the spread in their last 9. They're actually covering in 63% of their home games. Darius Garland's averaging over 21 points a game, along with 3 rebounds and 8 assists. Meanwhile, Evan Mobley scoring 15 points a game himself, along with 8 boards. And speaking of rebounding the basketball, the Cavs are actually in the top 5 in defensive rebounding per contest. They're also allowing fewer points per game at home than any other team in the NBA. Now they're taking on a sputtering Laker franchise who got the W just 3 times since February 16th. Now they also covered in only 23% of their ball games during that time frame I just mentioned. And when it comes to playing on the road, well, the Lakers allow 116 points a game while traveling, and they're also in the bottom 10 in stopping the field goal. And when it comes to rebounding the basketball, well, the Lakers are also in the bottom 5 in defensive boards per game. Now, injury-wise, Davis and Nunn are still out. LeBron and Ellington are questionable. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Rondo and Wade are out for them. When it comes to the total, the Lakers saw their last 2 straight get over the line, 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Cleveland on the other side went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Cleveland -6 in the over 224. Next ball game should be a good one. I'm talking about the Heat taking on the Sixers. 7:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, Miami is -1 on the road here. Total's 216.5. But despite being the slight favorite on the road here, Miami may have to go to work here tonight without their leading scorer, Jimmy Butler. Buckets is currently battling an ankle injury right now. And even though we're looking at a razor-thin number here, you still got to keep in mind that Miami's failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 ball games. Not sure if that particular trend is applicable here. Like I said, it's a razor-thin number. Might even close off, this one will close out as a pick'em most likely. But still, you just gotta, these guys haven't been great covering the number over the past week or so. And I'll tell you what, even though there's really not much these guys do wrong, Miami does tend to throttle down offensively late in games. As a matter of fact, the Heat's currently in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter scoring. They're taking on a Sixers team who plays some of the tougher defense in the East. These guys allow only 106 points per contest. They're actually in the top 10 in guarding the 3 ball. Now, when it comes to scoring in this one, Joel Embiid's averaging just about 30 points a game, along with 11 rebounds. Meanwhile, James Harden's scoring 22 points a night with the Sixers, along with 10.5 assists. And when it comes to shooting the basketball from the stripe, Philadelphia is actually leading the entire NBA in offensive free throw percentage. Certainly don't want to put these guys to the line because they will make you pay. Now, injury-wise, the Sixers' injury report is all clear as of now, the butt crack of dawn. Meanwhile, for Miami on the other side, Butler and Martin are questionable. Oladipo and Vincent are out. Now, when it comes to the number, Miami went 60% to the under in their last 10 outings. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is 23-13 to the under at the Wells Fargo Center. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia +1 and the under 216.5. Next contest, it is going to be Jazz versus the Nets, 7:30 p.m. East. Brooklyn's -2 at home, totals 229.5. But despite being the slight favorite, the Nets do not play their best basketball at home. Matter of fact, these guys have a win percentage of just .441 in the Barclays Center. And even worse than that, the Nets have covered the point spread in only 7 out of 34 contests in their own building this year. Now, Brooklyn's currently in the bottom 10 in home offensive scoring. They're also making just 31% of their three balls in front of their home crowd. They're taking on a tough Utah team who won their last 3 straight themselves, and they're arguably the best rebounding team in all of basketball. The Jazz are currently leading the NBA in road defensive boards. They're also in the top 5 in offensive rebounding per game as well. And when it comes to offensive production, Donovan Mitchell is averaging over 25.5 points a game, along with 4 rebounds and 5.5 assists. Meanwhile, Rudy Gobert leads the NBA in rebounds with over 14.5 points a game himself. 14.5 rebounds per game and 15 points as well. Now, when it comes to shooting the ball from the field, Utah finds themselves in the top 5 in offensive field goal percentage. When it comes to the injury report, Conley, Bogdanovich, House, Azubuike, and Forrest, they are all listed as questionable for the Jazz. Meanwhile, for Brooklyn on the other side, Aldridge, Irving, and Simmons, they are out for them. Comes to the total, Brooklyn saw unders recently with the likes of New York, Philadelphia, and Miami. Meanwhile, Utah went 80% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Utah +2 and the under 229.5. Next game, Raptors, Bulls, 8 o'clock East. Chicago's -5 with the total at 224.5. But despite being favored in this one, Chicago lost their last 3 straight. They got the W only 2 times since February 24th. Now, when it comes to covering the number, there's really not many who've been worse than Chicago recently. These guys went just 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 ball games. Now, Chicago's biggest issue this year is their defensive play. These guys are in the bottom 5 in defending the 3 ball, and they're actually letting their opponents make nearly 48% of their field goals against them. Now, they're taking on a Toronto team who won 6 out of their last 7 themselves. They failed to cover only once during that stretch. Now, Toronto's doing a pretty nice job on the defensive end of the court. They're actually in the top 10 in fewest points allowed. And they're also amongst the better teams in the East in guarding the 3 ball on the road. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Pascal Siakam is averaging 22 points a game, along with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Freddie VanVleet, he's drilling nearly 40% of his 3-pointers. He's also scoring 21 points a game. And speaking of offensive production, the Raptors currently find themselves in the top 10 in the league in first quarter scoring on the road. When it comes to the injury report in this one, Anunoby and Flynn are out. Meanwhile, for Chicago on the other side, Ball is still out for them. Williams is questionable. When it comes to the total, Chicago saw overs recently with the likes of Utah and Atlanta. They also allowed over 110 points a game in their last 10 meetings with Toronto. Meanwhile, the Raptors on the other side of things, they saw overs recently with the likes of the Lakers, Nuggets, and Suns. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Toronto +5 in the over 224.5. Next contest, it is going to be Celtics versus the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Boston's -13.5, totals 216. And even though Boston's been decimating teams lately, they are in the second of a back-to-back here tonight on the road, and they did fail to cover recently against the likes of Detroit and Indiana. Now, the Celtics do tend to get off to a slow start offensively. They're actually in the bottom 5 in the NBA in both first and second quarter scoring. Now, they're taking on a Thunder team who covered the point spread in their last 3 straight. And they also saw covers in 60% of their home games this year. Now, Darius Bazley, he's averaging double-digit points a night this year, along with 6 boards. Meanwhile, Trey Mann, he's scoring just about double-digit points a game himself, along with a couple of rebounds. Now, when it comes to covering the point spread, OKC's gone 18-8 against the spread against the Eastern Conference this year. When it comes to the injury report, Favors and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they are listed as questionable. Robinson Earl and Giddey are still out. Meanwhile, for Boston, on the other side of things, Neesmith is questionable for them. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Boston saw unders recently with the likes of Golden State, Dallas, and Charlotte. Meanwhile, OKC on the other side of things, they saw unders recently with Orlando, Minnesota, and Utah themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward OKC plus 13.5 and the under 216. Next ball game, it is going to be Wizards versus the Rockets, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Washington's -5, totals 235. But despite being favored by a couple of buckets on the road, Washington lost 7 out of their last 9 ball games. And they're covering in only 32% of their contests away from home. Now, the Wizards are having some significant problems offensively on the road this year. They're scoring just 105 points a game when traveling. And they're also in the bottom 3 in road offensive rebounding. Now, they're taking on a Houston squad who covered recently against the likes of Indiana, the Lakers, and Utah. And when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two squads, the Rockets got the W in 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Washington. Now, scoring-wise, Christian Wood is averaging over 17.5 points per contest, along with double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, Jalen Green is averaging over 15.5 points a game himself, along with 3 boards and a couple assists. When it comes to offensive production in this one, the Rockets are actually in the top 10 in shooting the 3 ball at home. Now, injury-wise, Gordon is questionable. Garuba is out. Meanwhile, for the Wizards on the other side of things, Carey is out. Kuzma is questionable for them. When it comes to the total, 9 out of Washington's last 10 outings got over the line. The Wizards also went 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Houston. Meanwhile, the Rockets on the other side, they saw overs recently with the likes of Phoenix, New Orleans, and the Lakers. I'm going to lean toward Houston plus 5. And the over 235. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Timberwolves versus the Mavericks, 8:30 p.m. East. Dallas is -3.5 with the total at 230. Now, Dallas did get the W in 7 out of their last 10 ball games. They played some really tough defense this season. Matter of fact, the Mavs allow only 102 points a game at home, and they're leading the league in guarding the 3 ball on their home court. Now, when it comes to scoring in this one, Luka Doncic is averaging over 28 points a game, along with 9 rebounds and 8.5 assists. Meanwhile, Spencer Dinwiddie, he's drilling nearly 41% of his 3-pointers. He's also scoring 17.5 points a game. Now, they're taking on a Minnesota team who may have to go to work here tonight without their leading scorer, Karl Anthony Towns. The big man's battling a forearm injury. And believe it or not, the Red Hot Timberwolves are actually playing just 500 basketball on the road this year. So these guys have been, fairly lackluster when traveling. Now, Minnesota's they've had some significant issues playing defense away from home this year. These guys allow nearly 118 points a game when traveling, and they're also in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage on the road. Now, injury-wise, once again, Towns is questionable. McDaniels is out. Meanwhile, for Dallas on the other side, Bullock is questionable. Hardaway and Pinson are still out for them. When it comes to the total, Dallas saw overs recently with the likes of Charlotte, Brooklyn, and Sacramento. They also went 8-2 to the over in their last 10 against Minnesota. Meanwhile, the T-Wolves on the other side, they are 27-9 to the over in their road games this year. And that's good for 75% in that particular category. I'm going to lean toward Dallas -3.5 and the over 230. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on BrockPage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on BrockPage.com, you're actually going to get access to those bets every single day all the way through the end of March. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And guys, if you want to get access to every single bet that I give out on that website, you're going to want to think about signing up for my board member package. Not only do board members get access to the board member tier package bet itself, you're actually going to get access to every single package that I offer on that website every single day, all the way through the end of March. It's an all-inclusive membership. You get absolutely everything, by far the best value on my website. But most importantly, guys, gotta thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.